Well, how do you like that? We've had so much unpredictable weather all weekend that I finally have some sunshine and I could do a little bit of grilling right here in the backyard. So everyone, welcome to another edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. Now, I've tried to do some newer meals besides my usual stuff I've done, like bavette, baked potatoes and such, and I think I've done a good job of that in the last year of trying a few new recipes. Like case in point, there was the time that I did the kapteji, that African street food I remember seeing in the past. Stupid bugs. It's like Algerian, Tunisian, probably Moroccan, like something from North African countries. If you want to see me do that episode, then I'm going to put a card in the top right corner for you and you can revisit it. But today we're going to be doing something new that I learned about from my sister just by chance. Suya, it's a type of Nigerian street food that you find that's made with beef, and apparently it's supposed to be a nice spicy dish with a bit of a nutty flavor in it too. And it's a very basic one you can put together with a lot of stuff in your spice rack. You may have to go to a dry goods store to pick up a few ingredients here and there, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. And best of all, it's made to be cooked on the barbecue. So whether you use charcoal, you use propane, you want to just set something ablaze for whatever reason, that's the way to do it. And we're going to show you how to get that started today. But before we get to that, just remember one more thing. That's right. Hit that subscribe button below and put the notification bell on. That way, if there's a new video ready to view, you're going to get a pop-up on your phone. And while you're at it as well, give me a like. The more thumbs up I get on these videos, and comments especially, the more the algorithm on YouTube promotes it all across. You're helping me a lot more than you think. Because as I'm recording this, we're now at 479 subscribers. I want to get to 500 before the year is done. And I think that's going to be possible if we carry on. Anyways, we're going to make our way upstairs because, as you already know, I will have to have a brew as well. And of course, I always have to have my olives on the side so I have something I can nibble on while I'm having the brew and preparing my stuff. So in case you wonder what kind of brew I'm doing, well, as usual, it's a New England IPA because, well, at least I think it's a New England IPA. Because some places they'll tell you the IPA, but they won't tell you exactly what type it is unless you look at the type of hops here. And this one's pretty interesting. Stop up over at Le Ravitailla earlier on my walk, which I've shown off numerous times, and probably be tagging them once I post this on Instagram so they know I try to support the local stuff. It's a collaboration between Brewski, as you could probably tell by the artwork over here, because they have a distinct style, but it's also a collaboration with Boreal. So two of my favorite brewers all together here. And it's the one that's called the Cap Nord-Est. Now this one, it says it has 4 different types of hops. You got Citra, Citra Hyper Boost, Mosaic, and Mosaic Hyper Boost. I don't know if it's supposed to be like, I don't know, reference to Sonic the Hedgehog, or Hyper Boost as being able to go fast like an F-Zero game, but I like it. Cap Nord-Est, it's like the Cape in the Northeast, so it's supposed to be a New England style based on just these hops. Because Citra, oh yeah, that old Citrasonic IPA that I used to get from the Pixel Brewery that, as far as I can tell, I don't see anywhere around the Montreal area these days. That's how I associate it. Oh yeah, and also, I have shown off Brewski and Boreal a few times on the channel. Boreal not so much, because that's Le Relais Boreal that's over here, whereas the main brewer is over in Blainville. But I have done Brewski a few times. And just to show them off, because I haven't really done a visit there in a while, click the card in the top right corner. You can see the episode I did when I visited there before going to Cuisine for a plantain burger that was actually pretty nice. So, usually it's a Mario song. Let's try it again. Okay, much better. But I see what you did there. Yep. I guess Sonic the Hedgehog reference before means I have to have a Sonic sound effect. But you know what? This thing is pretty tasty. Nice, very fruity. It's typically what I expect with the IPA de Nord-Est from Boreal and the Brewski style. Very satisfying. I have a different setup here compared to my last few episodes because I just feel like standing up a little bit instead of just sitting down. And first thing we're going to be doing is preparing our Yajin Kuli. Yajin Kuli is supposed to be a dry rub that you apply to the meat in addition to making it part of a marinade. You can find it in a lot of Western African places, or it's also pretty common in North Africa. It's spicy, going to have a very roasted, maybe a nutty flavor as well. And the reason it's going to be nutty is due to one of the first ingredients you're going to need. It's something that's, if you're looking at some dry food stores, or as we say here in Quebec, vrac stores, look for something that's called roasted groundnut. I wasn't able to find that, but the alternative you can use instead is like a dry peanut powder, and you're going to probably require around half a cup worth of it, which I have over here. I might have overbought over here, but I kind of want to make sure that I have more than enough. Oh, you know what? This whole thing might actually be just enough, so I got lucky over here. So you know what? I'm just going to pour the whole thing in. And as you can see here, it looks like it's going to have a very cake-like texture, almost like you're baking a peanut cake. Ooh. If you don't have it around though, the alternative you can use is maybe a little bit of peanut butter, and it's going to get the job done as well. And actually, this is making me think I want to have a Reese peanut butter cup. Out of all the chocolate bars out there, that one is still one of my favorites to this day. But enough talking about that. You just put that in a medium-sized mixing bowl, and then you're going to whisk it with all these other ingredients that you put in. So, next thing is going to be ground ginger, and that's going to be one of the bigger ingredients because you will need to get about a good tablespoon worth. I find that I'm using ginger a lot more in my spice rubs here, because I feel like jerk chicken and also especially curry powder, I put that a lot in there. And once again, if you want to see more jerk chicken made, I'll put a card in the top right corner and you can watch that episode once more. See, I'm trying to do some diverse meals over here, not just a typical Ukrainian cuisine or like my simple stuff. Anyways, 1 heaping tablespoon worth of dried ginger in here. Then, next thing I'm going to need is a tablespoon of onion powder. I'll admit, I bought an extra pack of onion powder because I wasn't sure how much I had left in my bag and if those could be enough for a full tablespoon. But luckily, for my reserve, it seems like I do have enough. So apparently I use garlic powder more in my cooking than onion powder, which is kind of funny considering that every recipe I use seems to call for both of them at the same time and in equal quantities, generally speaking. So there you go. A tablespoon of onion powder is added here. Then next is going to be a tablespoon of something called sweet paprika. I looked in the stores and the only types of paprika I could really find are Spanish paprika, Hungarian paprika, smoked paprika, and etc. But then sometimes you can find like sweet Spanish paprika, which I'm just going to assume is the same thing. So I'm just going to make a judgment call here and use this regular paprika I have, and hopefully it gets the job done. And unlike my jerk chicken, I am not using smoked paprika at all because that has a different scent and flavor as a result of it. So after that is done, okay, they're asking for a tablespoon of kosher salt. Now the thing is that if you're using table salt instead of kosher salt, for some reason they say that you should use half of the quantity as opposed to the full quantity. I don't know what the reason for that is, but if someone is better versed than me, then they can leave it in the comment section, and maybe I could use that as good trivia one of these days, and also give you credit too, so you know people who watch it can know that they're participating in here. After that's done, okay, this is the last thing I'm going to require a full tablespoon of. We're now moving down to the teaspoon, and this is going to be garlic powder now. So I'm actually using the garlic powder. This is one case now where the garlic powder isn't going to be the same quantity as the onion powder. Oh yeah, if you want an easy math trivia, 3 teaspoons is equal to a tablespoon. So you're using triple the amount of onion here compared to the garlic. There we go. So that's all added in as well. Seal that up, and then I'm going to keep it aside. And what's up next? Cayenne pepper. Something I use too if I want to give myself a little bit of a kick. Like once again, jerk chicken, jambalaya. I think sometimes even some curry powders will ask for that too. It all depends on your level of spice tolerance and preference, because not everyone can handle the exact same spiciness. And this is just what you find here in North America, because I know if you go to like India or other Asian places, the level of spice they have over there can sometimes be insane. Whether it's because of their taste or out of necessity, I'm not sure, but you know, sometimes you just work with whatever you can handle. Half a teaspoon of, okay, this is going to be optional. There was something here that was called grains of Selim or grains of paradise. I wasn't able to find that anywhere, but luckily it's optional. So I guess it's up to you if you want to use that. Oh, Guns N' Roses reference for the win. That's a band I haven't really heard in a while. Although, I remember back at HMV, we used to play that all the time for Boxing Day. Welcome to the Jungle Welcome to the Jungle became an anthem for us whenever we had a Boxing Day sale. Although truth be told, it seemed like that Boxing Day became second place after Black Friday, because Black Friday seemed like we had way more shoppers at that time. And I feel like to this day you have more people out doing that to get their Christmas shopping in advance. Regardless, that was a preamble before I get to the next stuff. So there's something else over here called cubeb pepper, or like African pepper. That could be a little bit tricky to find because not every store is going to carry it unless you go to a specialty store. So spilled some pepper, mother of invention. So for all intents and purposes, you can actually replace this with black pepper, like regular ones. So because it's saying half a teaspoon of kala pepper and then grains of paradise, I am going to make a judgment call and just do, oh, you know what, 1/2 teaspoon? I'll do a second one just to see how that's like. And hopefully it's not going to be too spicy. And then the last ingredient is going to be ground cloves. Just like my jerk chicken, that one is used in there. But it's a very small amount. You probably look... Oh. Okay, I can't seem to measure it now. So instead of a 1/4 teaspoon, I'm just going to put like almost a 1/2 teaspoon. I guess there's worse things that could happen. You don't want to make it too spicy. Yep, don't mind me. I realized that this footage was starting to get a little bit long, so I took a minute just to get some olives eaten and also enjoy some of my brew. So once all of your dry ingredients are in the bowl, then you just have to whisk it in place. Like, you can get a whisk, or you could probably do a spoon, and then you just blend it all together, and after all that, you just keep it aside. So I'm seeing that it's starting to become a little bit red because of the paprika, the cloves, and the cayenne pepper in here. And it still smells like peanut butter to me. I'm kind of curious how this is going to look, because it's not very often I use peanut-related things in my cooking. I know I've gone to sushi places where you can order like some chicken in a peanut sauce, and then when you get it, it almost feels like, wow, you just threw some peanut butter on top of bird and that's the meal? Not that I'm going to complain, because it's pretty awesome. Okay, so this is looking nice right now, and then once you're done, it's pretty much going to look like this in here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just keep that aside, and then I'm going to have to get my meat all prepared. So unlike other stuff like my bavette that I've probably done before, this one takes a little bit more prep than usual. Oh yeah, that spoiler alert, bavette is a cut of meat that I'm going to be using today, and once again, if you want to see me work with that, I'll put a card in the top right corner to my last grilling episode I did, which was my birthday barbecue wander and grill, as I like to call those, where I just started marinating the bavette in the morning, went into town to get a coffee, visit Le Ravitailla, then come back and do all my grilling in the evening. Okay, I'm really stoked about this. But then the truth be told, apparently too, the way that this is going to work is that once you're charring it and it's marinated, it's going to give a nice smoky roasted flavor, but at the same time, this is going to char and give you a bit of a crust on top. That's always pretty nice when you're working with dry rubs. So we're going to be moving on to the next step of our meal, which is going to be working on the bavette. So what you're going to need to do is you go to a butcher and then you just get yourself a nice 1 pound beef of that. It could be that or flank steak. Although truth be told, I think it's almost the same cut. You could correct me if I'm wrong about that. But if you're worried about your budget, then technically I guess you could also get sirloin for it too. And you may notice that there's a little bit of condensation here. The reason being is that they recommend throwing them into the freezer for like maybe 15 to 30 minutes, just so you can make it harden a little bit. Because the idea with that is, you will have to cut these into very skinny skewers, and it's easier to cut this thing when it's partially frozen and makes it a bit more firm. I'm hoping I left it for enough time, but we'll see. So I'm just going to be laying this on top here. This I'm just going to get rid of for now. Okay, and I'll worry about that later and do my cleanup. So let's see if I can get you a good view on camera for this. So you want to make these around 1/8 of an inch thick, and you can do it like maybe 1 inch high and 2 inches long. And if you think it's a little too long, then you can work it a little bit more afterwards. So I think something like this is going to be perfect for me. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's fine. And I'll show you how you're going to make this into a skewer later on, because obviously when you look at this, it's like very thin and kind of longish. And you might be asking, how are you going to do that? It's a little bit more simple than you realize. So you really just keep going with that until you're at the end. And okay, this is going to be like maybe 8 inches. So any pieces that are going to be longer than like 2 inches, you could cut them in half and then throw them into the bowl. There we go. Just keep doing that until all the meat is taken care of. There we go. So that's the last of the bavette all sliced up. So I have this all put into a mixing bowl here that I'm going to be using to get it all marinated now. So I'm just going to get rid of this glove. That way I don't infect everything else. So what you're going to be doing next is you're going to be getting a light oil drizzled onto the cow, onto the beef. Now they recommend using like a very neutral, not an oil that doesn't really have a strong flavor. Like they recommend a peanut oil or canola oil. Truthfully, if I don't really go for like seed oils very much these days, the closest thing I could say if you want like a vegetable oil is olive oil, which is very neutral. Of course, I didn't think of picking it up, and I was surprised at how much Costco was charging for it these days. So to make things easier, I am going to be making a judgment call, and I'm going to use olive oil instead. Because let's face it, that's always my go-to oil whenever I'm doing any cooking. So like 1, 2, and then 3. There we go. That's all taken care of. So just keep this aside here, close up my oil, and at the same time make sure I enjoy some brew, because you got to do that. And then your next step is you're going to be grabbing your measuring cup once again, your half measuring cup, and you're going to get about half a cup worth of the seasoning here. Just fill it up. Just to do that, make it a little bit heaping. So it's a very similar principle to when you're doing the jerk chicken, where you add a bunch of oil, then you put your dry rub, and then when you coat up, it's going to create a nice covering all around it. And it's going to be almost like a paste. So throw that in there, like so. All right, so that's taken care of, and then I am just gonna mix up with my spoon to make sure everything is evenly coated now. Because the idea with the oil is that that's gonna be giving you something to char on here, but then it's also gonna mix up with the breading. I forget what the term is right now, but I'll check later on. And it's gonna be a bit of a paste, something like this. So here's how it's looking so far. And you just want to make sure that it's all nice, evenly coated. Just like so. And then after you're done mixing all of this up, you just have to seal it, and then you leave it in the fridge to marinate for a small amount of time. Like at minimum, you're going to need about 30 minutes for that, up to 8 hours. But we'll see how quickly I get to that because I am going to get very hungry soon and I will want to eat eventually. Man, this is smelling pretty nice. But again, it smells like peanut butter to me. It's almost like a peanut butter beef. All right. Perfect. So now that that's done, I'm just going to take a minute to get that sealed up, cooled and marinated in the fridge, and then we're going to be right back with the next few steps. All right, took a few minutes to clean up everything, disinfect my countertop, and get started on the next batch of vegetables. Because as you already know, I'm a huge fan of vegetables on the grill these days and vegetables in general, compared to when I was a kid where it was cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, and I feel like that was all I really liked. Maybe a salad that was a lot of dressing, but I feel like these days I eat a lot more vegetables than I used to, so I guess I'm getting more nutrients and fiber. So, we're going to be doing a nice variety once more. I'm going to be doing some of my usual stuff like broccoli. There's an orange pepper in there, but one thing I was suggested to do a while back was some corn on the cob. So one of my coworkers at the office said you got to do that one day, and I figured I could either do that as a standalone episode or make it as part of a companion to my grilling today. Because from what I read, solid vegetables are a good pairing when it comes to what you're serving your skewers with. They say you could use carrots, you could use cucumbers sometimes, although red onions served over lettuce with some coriander, that's a typical way of having your suya. But there's no rule that you have to pair it completely like that. It's not like a wine pairing where you're having white wine with a steak. I know, red flag number one. At any rate, corn on the cob, I feel like the last time that I did that was probably 2018 or 2019, but it's definitely before I started doing this on camera. And there's actually several ways you could do it too. Because sometimes you could do different seasonings, different kinds of like oil or butter in there to help give it a nice crispy flavor. But as usual, I'm going to keep it simple and just use some olive oil. I know that when you're boiling it, you can dress up in butter and salt afterwards, but I feel like I'm using the same principle as when I do a potato for myself. Pre-oil it up. That way all you need is salt and other seasonings so that it's going to help it quickly grill up in there. Then you can do a little bit of salt on it. And what else can I do? Well, paprika maybe. It's a weird logic, but I feel like I've seen paprika served atop of a popcorn before. Even though it's not the same thing, why not? This might, there we go. Just like that. And then I'm just gonna roll this up too, and then we're gonna get started on grilling this very shortly. I have 3 stalks of corn I'm gonna be working on as well, so once that's done, I can finally get my fire started. And I feel like that my skewers, or at least I'll be able to prepare my skewers very soon, because it's almost been, how long? 10 more minutes and then they'll be ready. Oh yeah, you might have seen that I finished off my brew here. And while I probably want to go with another IPA, I thought, let's switch it up and do a Pilsner right now. And it's one that I picked up from Peluso when I was out on the walk earlier in the week. And it's one I've shown off before that's from the Silo Brewery. It's their Chabanel Pilsner Montréalaise, or Montreal-style Pilsner. I don't know what makes it so Montreal-style, because we're not really known for having a particular beer. Great craft beer scene, but it's definitely not distinct enough to say this tastes like Montreal. But I got this the same reason I usually get this one, which is a clothespin, and the name Chabanel because it ties into my family's history, because my aunt had or even still has an office around the garment district of Montreal, and I actually did cover that area of Montreal, Ahuntsic-Cartierville, and even went to the brewery directly. So if you want to see that episode, I'm going to put a card in the top right corner, and you can watch when I did a walk through Marché Central, went to get a coffee at Barista, and then finished off at Silo. Oh no, wait, Silo was like my midpoint. I finished off at the Roasters BBQ nearby. So it's looking pretty good. And of course, I'm going to cheers everyone here to good times, good brew, good food, and of course, to family memories. This one is very nice and refreshing, and just what I needed to finish off my corn, and then finally get started on this fire. There we go. So this has been reaching a pretty good heat now, which means it's going to be time to do the corn on the cob as we speak. Now, some people, depending on who you ask, you could probably leave it in the stalks and just grill it and you're fine. But again, I wrap mine in aluminum foil just to be on the safe side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab mine, and I could see that on the right hand side, that's where the fire is a bit more strong because most of the charcoal would end up on there. So I'll just lay this on top. You could rotate this every couple of minutes, but the idea is you want this to be grilled in about 8 to 12 minutes and rotate so it doesn't char too much on one side. Although charred corn is probably not the end of the world. And in fact, it's going to be tasty with that. So once that's done, I'm going to add the other veggies. And then I'm going to start preparing my skewers so that I can have my beef all set to go. Despite the fact that, again, it smells like peanut butter, I am stoked for that. So here we are now. It looks like that the peppers are going to be looking really nice. Still working the corn. It might be a little bit of overkill, but I'd rather have that a little bit more charred than not charred enough at all. But what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to start getting my skewers all prepared, because those are going to be pretty quick since I'm working a very thin cuts of meat. So I'll just get another glove on. Now, you need to get yourself a couple of wooden skewers. One rule of thumb I remember reading about like earlier today, which I didn't even think, is you work it the similar way you work with a cedar plank. Soak it in water for a little bit. Like this will require maybe 30 minutes beforehand, so you could avoid any fires. But the last time I used these was probably when I was doing shish tawuk many years ago, and nothing was set on fire. So I think I'm gonna be fine even if it's still dry, because this beef, because it's so thin, it's not gonna take forever to put together. Now, let's just see how this is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna poke through one piece of the meat, and hopefully it doesn't fall apart too much. Okay, this is fine. Not exactly, I'm gonna try that again because it's not sticking as much. Because what you would be doing with a bavette is you would kind of fold it up. Like if you had a 2-inch piece, you fold it so it's like 1 inch, fold it in half, and then fold it another ½ inch yet again, so that you get a nice thick piece of meat on here. And then you would keep doing that until all the meat is on the skewers. Apparently you can make like 12 skewers with this, but given the length, I'm kind of wondering if I'm even going to reach that in the first place. And considering it's like maybe 1 pound of meat, it's not the end of the world, and it's going to be like bigger pieces. Because typically when I do tartare, because bavette is what I use for tartare, I get 100 grams, sometimes 125 grams, and then it's fine. Just do that. And then you keep going until the skewer is all filled up. Actually, scratch that. I realized that if I was to just play with this, knead it around, and then just compress it together, it comes across like this. So this way, it's actually going to be a little bit easier than if I just left it as pure slices. Man, sometimes it's like you read up a recipe, you wonder how could this be done, and then you just improvise something along the way. There. So as you can see that, it looked like it was a bit of a struggle, but now, just maybe one more piece and I got a fine skewer. So that's one down, and, well, probably, we'll see how many more I could get out of this. So it turns out I was only able to get like 7 skewers over here, but I guess the truth is it's not the end of the world. I could do 2 per meal, maybe 1 if I want to reduce my meat for one day, and then I'm good to go. But once again, I am kind of stoked to see how this is going to turn out. So this is great. I'm just going to get out of the way and then move my corn to the other side here. It's probably been grilling for a little bit longer than expected, but I honestly don't care. So what I'll do next is I'll take whatever oil I have left over from my peppers, just apply to the grate. So I have a non-stick coating over here, and then the meat will be able to cook really well. So you're probably gonna need like a good 8 to 12 minutes for all of this. I doubt it's gonna take that long to do just because bavette is such a thin cut that it shouldn't be an eternity. So get all 7 skewers on. There we go, getting there soon. And I'll probably flip it after a couple of minutes, like 4 or 5 minutes. There we go. And I'll be sure to send you a good video of that when I'm doing the montage. But right now too, I feel like I need one more brew to be able to finish things up. And the good news is that I have one more IPA that I wanted to have over here. It's from a brewery that don't really show off as much. I've had some of their stuff on occasion, like over in the Vestiaire when they have it in stock, or sometimes picking up on my own when I'm not on camera. It's from Gaspard, and it's called Juicy Velour. So it's a New England IPA that's made with Citra, Motueka, and crush hops. So yeah, Donkey Konga jokes once again. But also I noticed that it does tie into the Boreal beers I did earlier, because IP Tonalness has some variations of different types of hops. So Motueka, Citra, Crush are 3 of the 4 variants I've seen before. Oh, actually there's 5, because there's also Strata and there's also Nectaron. This one is actually not from Montreal. It's from, well, technically the Montreal South Shore, so the Montreal suburbs, and it's based in Boucherville. Like, of all the areas of the South Shore, you got Longueuil, St. Hubert, Brossard, St. Lambert, Greenfield Park, whatever else. Boucherville to me always feels like it's one of the more disconnected ones, because it's kind of far to the east and it feels further from all the other ones. I don't know. I never think of venturing out there, but maybe one day I should try it out, especially for this, because that's where they're located. So, okay, cue the Crush joke. Cheers to Crush and Kremlins. Nice and refreshing, just as refreshing as the other IPA that I had earlier. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'll just enjoy this, probably start doing some cleanup, get a pizza prepared, because I will promise the family to get some of that too, because I have the extra time, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to get going on the meal. There we go. So a nice fine meal was all prepared. So once again, I have some Nigerian beef suya, corn on the cob. There's also some broccoli and peppers over here, but I'll probably have that off camera a little bit later, because I feel like I've shown that off so many times. I should probably highlight how this is going to be looking and see what my initial reaction is going to be. Actually, first things first, I'm going to snap a photo of this and show it to some friends, because I'm sure they're going to get hungry about that. Okay, mission accomplished. Now, let's see how well done this corn was, because I haven't really done that on the barbecue in quite some time. Soft, tasty, satisfying. Takes me back to being a kid where I think over the summer we used to do corn on the cob, like pretty often. And sometimes just having the corn itself was considered a meal in itself, because it could be considered very filling. But I feel like the pièce de résistance is going to be the skewer over here. So now, let's find out what this is like and if it passed the taste test. Very satisfying. Ooh, very peppery actually. They weren't kidding when they're saying this is a pretty spicy thing, but everything else is softened up. Probably a combination of the peanut butter powder over here that softened it over and gave it some char, and the fact that it's very thin pieces of Bavette that did the trick. Although one thing I remember reading about is that it's a 2-step process for grilling. You could throw it on the grill initially for like your 8 to 12 minutes when you're doing that, take it off, and then put it back on to re-grill it again to kind of maximize the flavor here. Oh yeah, I'd say very nice. So it just goes to show that even though I've done Bavette countless times on this channel, I'm always finding new ways to prepare it, seasoning it up, and serving it all over here. So who knows what else I could do one of these days. Maybe I'll be able to do it as a little roast and just do some thin slices. But I mean, that could be for another time, because summer is still just starting here, And not to mention that I still have plenty of years of grilling options to do. So until next time, thanks for watching this latest edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe. So if you like what you see, you know what to do. Bingo. Hit that subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my antics, my wanders, the cooking, the brews, the stories I share, and then everything that comes on this channel. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, leave in the comments and I'll see if I can do something about it one of these days. Till then, take care, see you next time, and above all else, enjoy the ride. God dang it, this turned out so tender. I approve.